everyone? This is John Heil.
Brett Whitaker.
And we're out here in Southwest Florida. And what we're doing right now is we're cruising this road kind of in like an edgeland habitat. It's kind of a cross habitat between longleaf pine, like a pinewood forest, and kind of a swampy lowland wetland type habitat. It keeps transitioning back and forth between these two ecosystems. And this ecosystem is actually really ideal for finding all kinds of snakes, but what we're after are venomous snakes. And specifically, down here in this part of Florida, there are 4 types of venomous snakes. Brett, you want to tell them what they are?
Yeah, so we have the Eastern Diamondback, which is the largest venomous snake that we have in North America. So the Eastern Diamondback rattlesnake, that's top of our list. We'd love to find that. Second, which is pretty much matched, we would love to find one, is an Eastern coral snake. And this habitat, where John was saying we have longleaf pine,
Yep,
and saw scrub mixed with, you can't see it over on this side, but there's wetland on this side. So it's kind of like a mixed habitat, and that's a perfect integrated zone for animals to, like, so you have a water source, you have habitat that provides shelter, food. So all these things together make for a great mixture to find snakes and other wildlife. So,
and 2 of the other snakes that Brett didn't mention that are also highly venomous are the pygmy rattlesnake,
yes,
and the southern cottonmouth. So altogether there's 4. There's 6 total in Florida. The other 2 are the southern copperhead and the timber rattlesnake, but they're found in the northern reaches of the state. They're not found this far south. So we're really hoping to find one of those 4 species down here. This is actually really good habitat for both southern cottonmouth, Eastern diamondbacks, and pygmy rattlesnakes. Like, because of what we were saying, because of what Brett was saying, we do have longleaf pinewood forests, which are ideal for rattlesnakes. They don't really like swampy areas. Cottonmouth, on the other hand, they love the swamp. They're semi-aquatic. They spend a lot of their lives in the water. So, fingers crossed.
yeah,
We're gonna find us
these
a very
cross
venomous snake.
habitat zones are gold. So we'll see what happens, and we'll keep you guys updated.
Hello everyone, so it's John Heil and my buddy Brett Whitaker, and what we have here is what we were searching for, one of the snakes we were searching for, which is the Eastern coral snake, a highly venomous species of snakes found here in Florida, found throughout the Americas. This snake here is arguably the most venomous snake in the Americas, in the New World.
The only runner-up for that title would be the Mojave rattlesnake.
Exactly. And like I said, it is an Eastern, she's really wrapped her body around here, an Eastern coral snake. Brett is much, he knows the scientific names much better than I do. What is the scientific name of this
So the
snake?
genus this snake belongs to is Micrurus, and the particular species for the eastern is fulvius. So it's Micrurus fulvius. Again, like John was saying, this is a highly venomous snake, very beautifully patterned, and you can see the pattern. Let's get her closer, John, so they can really get to see that pattern.
You can see right there.
So in the wild, these striking colors, the red contrasted against the yellow and black, to a predator, that would mean leave me alone. So if a predator were to approach the snake, its color pattern alone is a defense mechanism. And there are a lot of others, there are some species that actually mimic the coral snake, such as the scarlet snake, which is a non-venomous species. But they kind of mimic that pattern that the coral snake has, so it'll confuse predators as well.
Yeah, and one thing that's worth mentioning is you can see the color pattern essentially is red, yellow, black. So you have a thick red band, a thin yellow band, and then a thick black band. And that is a characteristic trait of the Eastern coral snake and pretty much all coral snakes in North America. The difference between the venomous coral snake and the harmless non-venomous scarlet snake is the pattern. So like I said, red, yellow, black on the coral. On the scarlet snake, it's red, black, yellow. So the old The old saying goes, to help you remember, is red on black, friend of Jack, red on yellow, kill a fellow. Now, that is a general sweeping rule. Most of the time, probably 90% of the time, you're gonna find the black, yellow, red, red, yellow, black pattern on these venomous coral snakes. However, they don't always follow that pattern. These guys can get, in Central and South America, they can be totally red with a black head and a yellow stripe around it, like you see on her.
Yep.
So in North America, in the Southeast, it's a good rule because most of the coral snakes you run across are gonna look like this, but not a general sweeping rule for all coral snakes.
Let me see her for a second, John. Something interesting that I found with this snake when we first encountered it was, unlike the vipers that I'm used to handling, and this is not a viper, this is an elapid, and it's actually the second elapid that I've ever caught. It's first elapid in North America, and it's the only elapid in North America.
Yeah, so these guys are in the cobra family. They're related to cobras, they're related to black mambas, they're related to taipans. They are some of the most venomous snakes in the world.
So what's interesting is, unlike when you encounter a viper or pretty much any other type of snake that I've been around, this snake really doesn't strike. It moves sort of like a milk snake, which is also like the Sonoran milk snake is a mimic of the coral snake as well, but they're not in this part of the United States. What's interesting is that these guys seem so calm and placid, and they don't strike. In fact, they kind of like nonchalantly, when we were handling it first off, when we first caught the snake, it nonchalantly just started biting the stick that it was on.
Yeah.
And it was, we could not tell. It's really hard to read the snake's body language. That's why we've got to be extremely careful while handling it.
Exactly. So with vipers, the vipers we're used to in this part of the country are cottonmouth, timber rattlesnakes, eastern diamondback rattlesnakes, copperheads. They have a triangular shaped head, and it's unmistakable for the most part. And they have a very classic strike position where they'll coil their bodies up, they'll get in this tight S-shaped position, and they'll strike, and they strike fast. These guys are literally a different animal. They do not coil themselves up like that.
See what she's doing right there on flipping herself over? We call it like a death roll. It's a defensive roll, and the snake's just trying to get away from us. I got to be really careful. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, John. I was just wanting to point that out.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it's a cool characteristics. A lot of snakes do that, and a lot of reptiles, in fact, crocodilians do it when they're trying to rip off meat from a carcass. Snakes do it just to try to get away. They try to turn their bodies kind of quickly so that they just slip through your fingers and then they can make a quick escape.
So another interesting defensive mechanism that these guys have is something called cloacal popping. And what a cloaca is, it's basically the anal / urinary. It's where they expel their waste. They don't really expel urine.
And where they reproduce.
Yeah. So their sexual organs are all in there. It all comes out of one hole. So these guys, when they're really agitated, they'll flick their tails around in like this sort of emotion, and they'll make this. It's actually audible and pretty loud, and it's a warning. It's them expelling air out of their cloaca.
It's kind of like the equivalent of me going, kind of.
Yeah, only it comes out of their butts.
Exactly.
It's pretty much a snake fart, and they use it to actually scare predators off. Now, she hasn't done this with us, so I was wanting to actually show you that interesting defense mechanism, but she's not keen on doing it. So, but I just wanted to explain that because I thought it was very interesting.
That's your bud?
Yeah. Here,
So,
switch her off.
Yeah. So another interesting tidbit that makes this snake different than the pit vipers that are predominant, there she goes with the death roll, that are predominant in this area is that they have a different kind of venom. So your rattlesnakes, your cottonmouth, your copperheads, they have a very hemotoxic venom, which basically destroys flesh. It acts as the first step in digestion because their venom breaks down flesh and tissue. These guys are different. They have a highly neurotoxic venom, which affects the nervous system. And so if you are bitten by this snake, it is bad news. If you do not get treated, if you do not treat, if you do not go to the hospital, you will most likely die from cardiac arrest or respiratory failure.
Yep.
So it just attacks the nervous system. Your body stops breathing, essentially, because it causes paralysis. And you know, a lot of times people, when they're bitten, they don't even know they've been bitten because they have very small fangs. And so when they're bitten, they don't necessarily know. They don't necessarily see an injection site. But some of the symptoms include abdominal pain, blurred vision, slurred speech, vomiting, yeah. And if left untreated for an extended period of time, then it will cause respiratory and or cardiac failure. So it is not a snake that you that you want to mess with necessarily. The only reason me and Brett do this is because we have so much experience with handling reptiles, specifically venomous snakes. So it's something you don't want to just go out there and pick up. You got to be very careful, and it's really all about reading the body language, which is more difficult with this species because they don't have a classic strike position.
They're really strange in how they do that. Like,
Yeah.
the snake, not once when we found it, struck at us.
Yeah.
It was it wanted to move fast, and it did whip its head around, which could come back up, but it wasn't a strike. It's not, they don't get in that classic S-coil like a copperhead or a rattlesnake gets in. It's kind of just sort of out of nowhere, so it makes it really unpredictable.
Yeah.
Another interesting trait about elapids is, unlike their viper cousins, or not viper cousins, but unlike the viper family, so vipers, their fangs are retractable. So like when a viper bites, their fangs are hinged and they can swing.
out.
They can swing out. These guys have fixed fangs, so they don't really swing out. They're fixed inside their mouth, and so they actually kind of have to chew on you to get the venom down in there.
Yeah.
And unlike the viper, which injects deep, it'll go through your veins and your blood, in like your blood system. This venom travels through your lymphatic system. And if you're bitten by a coral snake, unlike the vipers, you need to tourniquet it. So if you have a tourniquet on you,
Yeah.
take for example, I'd take my belt off, I'd wrap it around my arm above the bite site to prevent the spread of the venom. It'll actually slow the venom down.
That's an important note. I'm glad you said that.
You
Because,
cannot do that with vipers,
Do
though.
not do that with vipers because, like I was saying, their venom is very hemotoxic. It breaks down flesh and tissue. So it's better for the venom to run its course through your body with pit vipers, not this species, with pit vipers. Because if you used a tourniquet on a rattlesnake bite, what you're essentially doing is holding the venom in one spot. Say it bites you on the hand, and you place a tourniquet on your forearm. Instead of losing a hand, you're going to lose a forearm. So you do not want to use tourniquets for vipers or pit vipers. For elapids who have a neurotoxic venom, you do, because that stops the spread of the neurotoxicity that's going to affect your nervous system. So very important note to make.
Yes, absolutely. We have had a long day out in the field. We didn't find much.
But this takes the cake.
Oh yeah.
Even though we didn't find anything, it's worth all the mosquito bites.
It's really odd to find them out in the daytime. We were very surprised to find this animal. One of the reasons is her colors are so vibrant. I believe, it's my theory, that the snake has actually just recently shed. It probably came out of its hole. These snakes are fossorial, so they spend most of their time underground. You really don't encounter them above ground, and they're nocturnal at this time of year. So we found her under some of these palmetto leaves. I believe that she just shed somewhere in here and was having a rest before she goes, basically waiting for sundown so she can go out and feed.
Yeah, and this is a female. This is about as big as they get. This is a female coral snake.
She's huge.
The females in the Elapidae family, so the cobras, the taipans, the mambas, the females are actually bigger, which is opposite of the pit vipers where the males are bigger. So this is about a 2-foot long female, and that is about as big as they get. Definitely. She might be 18 inches, but she's pushing 2 feet, definitely. So this is about as big as they get.
Okay, so we're gonna go let this girl go back under her leaves. Thank you for watching. Again, we're gonna have more videos like this to come. In August, John and I are going out to Arizona. We're gonna be catching rattlesnakes and all types of awesome wildlife. So look forward to that.
And keep living the wildlife.
Respect it too.
Now it's time to release this beautiful, beautiful
Eastern coral snake.
We're gonna let her go back into her piney, palmetto-y home. And you be a good girl. Happy hunting. Thank you for the opportunity to get to hold you and have such an awesome, awesome experience with you. Everyone, so just wanted to show you another little find here after releasing the coral snake. So this is a Florida box turtle, and it is a subspecies of the common box turtle. And what's really cool,
Show them.
I just want to show this real quick. First of all, this is a male. The reason I know that is because we have an indented plastron right there. So that is actually used to mount the females. I'll use my fist as a rough illustration of a female Florida box turtle. He gets up and it's curved, it's indented, so he's better able to, it's more in line with the actual
Basically, he won't
carapace.
roll off the top of her
Exactly.
and look like a fool.
Exactly. And another cool thing is on the carapace. So bottom of the shell, plastron, top of the shell,
Carapace.
carapace. And this looks like scar tissue right here. Probably attacked by an alligator, honestly.
Yeah.
We're pretty close to some swampy wetland, just a few yards off that way. And they do like to hang around the water quite often.
What's interesting is, yeah, it's scar tissue, but this the carapace is actually attached to the spine. So underneath the carapace is their spinal cord. So this is essentially just a bony extension of their spine with scutes on it. You know, it's composed of keratin, the same thing that makes up our fingernails, but it's a lot thicker and a lot harder. If you really look at that, something gave him a good chomp. Box turtles are awesome turtles. They're one of the only turtles that can close themselves up inside their shells completely. So you see this little band right here, that's actually a tough sort of ligamenty sort of connective tissue, and it allows it to open like a ramp.
Yeah.
And he's closed himself up, so I don't think he's going to show his head anytime soon. He's very frightened of us. So these guys are very important to the environment. All animals are important to the environment. They're all part of the food web. And where I'm from, the eastern box turtle, I'm from Kentucky. John and I are originally from Kentucky. The eastern box turtle, which we have around there, it's endangered. And it's because it's been collected by the pet trade. So if you see these guys, even though they're very pretty and you want to take them home, it's best just to leave them in the wild. One, box turtles require a lot of care. It's not a beginner species turtle. You can purchase them offline, never take them out of the wild. And make sure you check your local laws on what you're allowed to own, because in some places you can't own endangered species even though you bought it offline.
Right. Yep.
So again, main rule is don't ever take anything out of the wild and keep it as a pet. They don't do too well. Most of the time they're loaded with parasites. And well, we're gonna let this guy go right now so he can go find him a lady.
All right, guys.
Thanks.
Cows. Cows. These are called cows. They have these things on their stomach called udders. It's where milk comes from.
And it's utterly irresistible.